All right, so let's cover some top coats or finishes for your projects to protect them. Now, when you use like a pre-stain and a stain on a product, that is not the top coat. That is not the finish. That will not protect your project. Now, I know there's a lot of different top coats or finishes that you can use. For example, there's shellac and lacquer, and you got your oils, your Danish oil. But I'm going to cover the most popular, and I'm just going to go over the poly family. So, with that said, let's get dirty. So let's cover something first that encompasses all of these. Now, what you want to do when you're using these is, so first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you sand your project. Now you want to sand it with a 220. You want to get all the dirt, grime, any finishes that are on there. You want to get those off before you recoat. After you do that, the next step is you want to apply whatever finish you're going to use and let it dry. Now, after it dries, you're going to have to sand that with a 220 and apply again. Now, you may have to do that at least 3 times, okay? After the third time, you'll have a great top coat, a great finish on it. It'll be nice and smooth. So the first one I'm going to cover is the wipe-on poly. Now, this is probably the easiest product to use. It's great for beginners. You just need to make sure that you use a lint-free cloth, like an old t-shirt. Something's been washed and dried at least a couple times. So you would just put this on, rub it into the wood, and again, you would go through that process. Now, with any of the oil-based products, you're looking at a higher VOC. So the simplest way to explain VOCs is that it smells. Okay, so it's going to create a lot of fumes. Make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area. And this is probably the only oil-based polyurethane I have ever seen that actually recommends that you shake well before use. Your other oil bases, you never want to shake them. Fills them with air bubbles. So I have seen people ask if they can use a brush on this product. My question would be, why would you want to? It kind of defeats the purpose of buying a wipe-on polyurethane if you want to use a brush. But if you're really bent on using a brush, yeah, go ahead. I would probably recommend a sponge brush in this scenario. Pretty watery, so it's great for horizontal applications. A little bit more difficult when you start working vertically with it. This is a great product for beginners. It'll definitely give you the ins and outs of working with an oil-based urethane. Next product is the polycrylic. Now, polycrylic is a water-based product, and that means that all the tools you use for application can be rinsed or washed using just water, okay? Now, the thing about the water-based products is that they aren't as resistant to moisture and heat. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to be using it on a countertop or a tabletop, that it's exposed again to more moisture and heat than, say, a bookcase, okay? Now, one thing to note here, none of these are food grade. So these are not products you would ever want to use on a cutting board, charcuterie board. So this can be applied with a brush or a roller. Either would work just fine for applying it. So if this is your beginner, this would be more of your intermediate. So the next ones I want to talk about that would go right here is they do make a water-based Spar urethane and a water-based urethane. Okay, so that would be, again, along the lines of the water-based polycrylic. They're not as robust as the oil-based. So the water-based products will do a good job for top coating, but because they are water-based, again, you don't want to expose them to excessive moisture, excessive heat. You can apply them easily with a brush or a roller, and they're clear, so they don't have the yellowish amber tint that oil-based products will have. So if you were doing something where you wanted the natural color of the wood, you would definitely want to look at doing a water-based product versus an oil-based, because again, you're going to get that tint. So the last ones we'll cover are the oil-based urethanes. Now there are a couple types. One of them is a spar urethane. Now a spar urethane is an exterior type urethane. So if you any type of exterior products, you would want to use a spar. Now the reason why is because a spar urethane has an additive that helps filter the UV rays. Now the UV rays can be damaging to your project when it's set out in the sun for too long. So definitely if you're going to do an exterior project, you use the spar urethane. So the last one I'm going to cover in this series is just the regular interior oil-based urethane. So like I mentioned before, there will be a slight amberish tint to it because of the oil. So that will cause a little slight discoloration. But when you're working with the oil-based urethanes, they are definitely the top of the ladder when it comes to protecting your project. So the oil-based urethanes can be applied with a brush or a roller. They are considerably thicker than the water-based products, so they're easier to work with when it comes to doing vertical surfaces. They work great horizontally, and they can also work really good vertically. But when it comes to urethanes, these are definitely the more advanced application as compared to your water-based products and your wipe-on products. So my preferred sheen when it comes to doing my projects is the satin. Now you can get them in satin, semi-gloss, or gloss. Again, I prefer the satin. I do have gloss. I will use gloss when it comes to doing like my bar tops. Anything that I want really shiny, really glassy looking. So like I mentioned in the beginning, you want to prep your project before you apply any of these urethanes. You do that by sanding the project. Then you would use, and I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but then you would use a moist rag to wipe off all the sawdust, let it dry. Then you would apply your first coat of urethane or polycrylic, sand that down. Now, when it comes to the oil-based products, I actually prefer, instead of the 220 sandpaper, I prefer 4/0 steel wool. They don't recommend that you use steel wool on the water base. The reason why is because it can cause some discoloration when it comes to the steel hitting the moisture, the water. It could cause some rust spots. So avoid using the steel wool on the water-based products, but it's okay to use it on the oil-based products, and that is definitely my preference. So apply sand or steel wool based on what you're using. Wipe that off. Do it again, do it again, do it again until you've got that perfect top that you're going for. So again, this will take at least 3 applications until you can get to that perfect top that you're going for. So that was just a quick overview on doing your top coats or your final finish. I know it can be confusing when you're starting out, but hopefully that kind of gave you a direction of where to go. Again, good for beginners, intermediate, and then you've got your other 2 here. A little more advanced if you're using the water-based polyurethanes, and then definitely more advanced if you're using the oil-based urethanes. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of new episodes as they become available. If you're new to the woodworking hobby, check out my Woodworking for Beginners video series. It's a 12-part series. Just gives you a basic overview of some woodworking techniques with really simple projects that I just take you through step by step. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments section. I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you'd like to support my channel, I'll put a link in the description to make a donation. Also, feel free to share me on your social media sites. That would be a huge help. So until next time, keep it safe.